Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and this is number 13 in our talk about the American presidency. Now, a couple of things I want to go over here that I think are very, very important, and that is with Andrew Johnson and the impeachment, which took place in the House of Representatives. The court case for basically conviction would take place in the Senate. And in the Senate, there were several Republicans who said they smelled a rat. And I want to give you the names of those individuals. We never hear about them. Their names are as follows: William Pitt Feddersen of Maine, Joseph S. Fowler, Tennessee, James W. Grimes of Iowa, John B. Henderson, Missouri, Lyman Trumbull of Illinois, Peter G. Van Winkle of West Virginia, and Edmund G. Ross of Kansas, who would provide the final vote. And Andrew Johnson would be acquitted by that last vote by Ross. Now, the interesting thing, and I wanted to share this with you if I could, was that there's so much going on here. And I always like to encourage people to read. Reading is very important. This here, if I can hold it in front, these are the original books from the impeachment of Andrew Johnson. All 3 volumes. Very rarely do you ever hear about all of these volumes. I'm going to put those down. They're heavy. You know, government books are always heavy. But that deals with everything dealing with the impeachment. You know, we don't even talk about it. No one even knows anything about it. No one reads this stuff. Read these books. I'm sure they're probably online. I always like the original books. I like to look at a book. I like to hold a book in my hand. But nonetheless, Ross's vote, which I alluded to in the previous video, although I did not give his name, I wanted to give you the name of those Republicans who said, "I smell a rat." And it's true. Got to understand that Andrew Johnson, although Andrew Johnson was a true constitutionalist, although Andrew Johnson felt that the Constitution was as it was because the founders did it that way and he didn't want to change it, the thing that really irritated the radical Republicans was the fact that Andrew Johnson, being that he didn't want to change the Constitution, also did not have a high regard for the blacks, the former slaves. And he said no. He didn't like the 13th Amendment. He hated it. He didn't want anything to do with the 14th or 15th. And he fought Congress. He went on a speaking tour with General Grant and Secretary of the Navy Wells. There's many photographs of him at the various points. He made a damn fool of himself. Being a Tennessean, being the individual who could do great stump speeches in Tennessee, did not go over well in other areas of the country. It's a totally different style. Nonetheless, Johnson would be acquitted. The Tenure of Office Act would not be removed for a number of years, oddly enough. And we have to thank Andrew Johnson. He had many faults, but one of the things that was not a fault was the ability to stand strong. His ability to not give up. His ability to find ways to find solutions. His ability to try to be lenient on the South. We don't realize this. We hear about Lincoln, but Johnson tried to do the same. And the radical Republicans wanted to punish the South. They wanted to take over the South. They wanted to look at it as an occupied country. Well, they defeated Johnson. He survived with his integrity. He survived with the presidency and keeping the power of the presidency. But his own presidency was destroyed. Therefore, Congress would basically push to have the South occupied in something called Reconstruction. Ugly, nasty, and awful. And to tell you the truth, it would cause 100 years of problems. And so all of the South was occupied. This led to the emancipation of many of the blacks, the slaves. Many of the blacks became senators and congressmen, which is wonderful, but the whole thing was, it was pure politics. It wasn't the fact that everyone was concerned for the blacks or the slaves. It was pure political power. Andrew Johnson realized that, but he could do nothing. And so the administration of Andrew Johnson would end. I'm sure he was very happy to see it end. And Ulysses S. Grant would take his place. And Grant was really mean and nasty to Johnson. He was a radical Republican. Johnson would leave, but there's an interesting postscript to all of this. Andrew Johnson would eventually become a U.S. Senator and return to the Senate. He would die there. True to his beliefs, true to his love of the Constitution, and true to the belief in his country. When he came back, all of those who had supported him during the impeachment were gone. They gave up their political life to save the American presidency. We should remember, that kind of stuff. We don't. And so Andrew Johnson came back. He was welcomed with love by all the people who wanted to destroy him before. He accepted their friendship. And then he died. When he was buried with an American flag and a copy of the Constitution on his chest. Because, as he said, the Constitution as it was and will ever be, more or less. Andrew Johnson, lots of issues, lots of problems. Fascinating, interesting man. Saved the office of president. And is woefully forgotten today. Woefully looked at pretty badly. He wasn't a great guy. But he was a man of principle. And sometimes principle is far more important than politics or honor or thought or whatever. He was his own man. And because of that, he was able to save the American presidency. And for that, we should always be thankful to Andrew Johnson. Thank you.